Senator Kramer was had some foresight into that, I guess. And he said that he claimed that Canada is considering the offer to become the 51st state and be part of the Golden Dome system. I will now hold my breath. Can we switch to tariffs while we have you? Because Japan, there's all these things happening. Japan is talking about spending $6.3 billion to shield its economy from Donald Trump's tariffs. This was out today. Spain unveiled a $15 billion tariff aid package last month. And then you have the president of the United States last week saying that Apple has to make their iPhones in America. And not only Apple, he went on to say it wouldn't just be Apple products, it would be all phones because it, quote unquote, wouldn't be fair. And Axios has reporting that notes, and this is from an equity research analyst, for U.S. consumers, the reality of a $1,000 iPhone being one of the best made consumer products on the planet would disappear. Making iPhones in New Jersey or Texas or another state would boost their price tag to about $3,500 instead. It is, please, because people are going to say I'm being dramatic. It is not realistic for iPhones or Samsung phones to be made in America.
Well, you're exactly right. The iPhones will be the biggest tax on consumers in generations. That's a fact. And it will undercut our trade relationships and the strength of our economy. Targeted tariffs where you've got dumping by China, I think a lot of us are totally open to that. But tariffs against your friends, when it's going to essentially be a tax on consumers and it's unraveling relationships that we need in order to be pushing back against China, make no sense. And in fact, the other aspect of this that I think is very dangerous is it plays into the corruption agenda of Trump, because these tariffs are not uniform. If you know Scott Bessent, you have his phone number, or the president's phone number, you give him a call like Apple did early on, and you get exempt from the tariffs. But if you're a small manufacturer of these water bottles, like the Vermont firm that was in the Times today, you're out of luck. So Trump is turning the economy into one that's based on who you know, access, as opposed to a competitive product, a competitive price, and good service.
So when you are not traveling the globe, giving a reassurance tour to foreign leaders over whether or not they can, in fact, trust their allyship with the United States, you are preparing to deal with Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. Your colleague, Senator Ron Johnson, says he has enough support to hold up the budget bill, essentially wants to go through it line by line and look for additional cuts. You leave Ron Johnson alone in a room with this bill, doing a line edit. What more of our social safety net gets cut?
Well, he cut everything he could get his hands on. But there's an element of Ron Johnson and Rand Paul that actually I have some sympathy with. This bill will not help our economy. It'll hurt it, and it will explode our deficit. It's going to take money from people who need it and from our institutions that need it. It's going to give tax cuts to billionaires who don't need those tax cuts. And what's really happening now that's extremely dangerous, it's pushing up interest rates. The bond market is in revolt. That means your credit card bills are higher. If you want to borrow money for a car, it's higher. And we're now already paying more for the national debt service than we do on Medicare, more than we pay for the military. So this is an economically really bad bill, and I think we should just kill it.
Well, sadistic zombies is not the kind of phrase you expect from Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman, who will be joining our program this evening. Professor Krugman is a former columnist for the New York Times whose invaluable writing now appears on Substack, where everyone should absolutely make an effort to read it and learn. Read it and learn seems to be something Donald Trump has never been able to do, and the Republicans he dominates in Congress seem to have the same deficiency. The cruelty of the budget bill designed by Donald Trump and the Republican Congress has provoked the mild-mannered Professor Krugman, not known for rhetorical excess, to call Donald Trump and the Republican Congress sadistic zombies. And I will take the liberty during this hour to extend Professor Krugman's term to include the Trump ally who actually might be the most sadistic of all, Elon Musk. into the group of sadistic zombies now trying to control our governing, and in Elon Musk's case, trying to control this starving little girl in a refugee camp near South Sudan. Because Elon Musk believes that the girl you're looking at right there, Elon Musk believes that she has received too much free food from you. Too much free food from the United States of America. The United States of America has been producing more food than we can consume for more than a century now, and we have been sending food aid around the world for almost 200 years, as we did during the Irish famine in 1847. Former USAID official Dr. Atul Gawande is in Africa tonight, where he has seen what these sadistic zombies have done to that little girl and to people who need the HIV care that the United States has been supplying thanks to a program created by Republican President George W. Bush, but no more. Dr. Atul Gawande will join us later in this hour. The sadistic zombies are trying to take food aid away from people here in the United States who need food aid. They're trying to take that away from people in their budget bill. They are trying to take health care away from the people who earn the least amount of money in this country. They are trying to take health care away from Medicaid recipients. They are trying to give the most massive tax cut in history to Elon Musk and other billionaires, while still maintaining a much heavier tax burden on many taxpayers and on working couples, for example, who are very well paid, who can no longer deduct all of their state and local taxes on their federal tax returns because Donald Trump and the Republicans eliminated the possibility of deducting all of your state and local taxes from your federal tax returns, which we've all been able to do during our entire lives. And they did that during the first Trump presidency. And so Donald Trump actually increased significantly the tax burden on those taxpayers who ended up paying much more in their overall tax burden, even though their federal income tax rate was technically and slightly reduced. And those taxpayers are not happy. Those taxpayers live in Long Island. Some of them voted for Republican members of the House who are now betraying their promise to restore those taxpayers' ability to fully deduct their state and local taxes, like they did their entire lives until Donald Trump took that away from them and, in effect, raised their tax bills enormously. And that's one of the problems with the Republican tax bill, is how do you get those Republican House members in New York and California who lied about this in their campaign, saying they were going to fix this, how do you get them to vote for that bill and betray their voters, who they promised they would fix that problem for them? The Republican House leadership is pushing forward to try to pass a bill for a president who has no idea what he is doing, a president who has no idea how the American economy and the global economy actually work. And finally, Donald Trump's overwhelming stupidity about all of that has finally broken through to American voters, with now 66% disapproving tonight of how Donald Trump is dealing with inflation and the cost of living, the reason so many voters voted for him. 63% disapprove of Donald Trump's tariffs, all of which, by the way, are illegal. And 58% disapprove of how Donald Trump is handling economic issues generally. The utterly fraudulent notion that the successful businessman Donald Trump was very good at the economic side of the presidency has evaporated. And it did evaporate even before Donald Trump reached the 100-day mark of this presidency. And now, with the most recent polling right now in May, even after Donald Trump has retreated from his most inane illegal tariffs, American voters are not quickly forgiving him for his tariff madness that crashed the stock market and scared them for very good reason. and the tariff madness that they will still suffer the next time they go into a Target or any other store. And so casting a vote for policies advocated by a popular president is one thing, but casting a vote on economic policy and a budget for a president who 2/3 of the country believes does not know what he is doing on economic policy is something that could only be done by people who are not thinking about what they are doing, people who are approaching the Republican budget process like what Paul Krugman calls zombies, sadistic zombies. And if they win, if the sadistic zombies win, they will lose. If the Republicans win the vote in the House of Representatives, they might then lose the vote in the United States Senate and throw the Republican Congress into utter chaos for the rest of the year. But if they win the vote on this budget bill in the House and then they win a vote in the Senate on the same budget bill, they will then have the booby prize of having passed the cruelest budget bill ever passed in American history and signed into law by the cruelest president. And they will take that cruelty with them into the next congressional election and see how it goes. See if those 66% who oppose what Donald Trump is doing now will thank them next November for helping visit that cruelty upon them or upon their neighbors or upon their grandmothers. Every voter in the next congressional election is going to know that Donald Trump lied when he said this.
We're cutting three things: waste, fraud, and abuse. We're not changing Medicaid, and we're not changing Medicare, and we're not changing Social Security.
The Senate has trapped Trump, and I don't think he's going to be able to squeeze out of this with his bill. I think it's a brilliant move to block it. And they're voting in the public, right? Senators have come out and said, my vote is this, right? Like, there's the formal vote. We've talked about this. There's the formal vote on the floor. And then there's the vote that matters just as much in many cases, which is the vote before the vote. And like we saw it, like the reason Matt Gaetz was dropped out, withdrew his consideration, was because Trump told him behind the scenes, look, senators have effectively already voted, and at least 5 Republicans are voting against you. No Democrat's going to vote for you. So you've lost. The vote has happened, even if it's unofficial. And what we're seeing is the unofficial vote in the Senate is saying we don't like this bill. But what traps Trump is it pincers him. It's not just Democrats and a few moderate Republicans opposing him. And it's not even just the extreme right-wing Republicans. If either of those happened, it could still be tricky. But Trump knows where he needs to move. If the right wing opposes it, he could move rightward, and he maybe does that without losing the moderates. If the moderates are angry, he can move towards the center a little bit. Hopefully he doesn't lose the MAGAs. Here, though, the MAGAs hate it, and the moderates / Democrats, you see a Democratic senator, they hate it too. Because on the one hand, it cuts social programs, and on the other hand, because it doesn't cut them enough and of the tax increases, Republicans, the budget hawks, don't like it either. He has nowhere to go. If he makes the budget people happy, the program cuts get worse. If he makes the cut people happy, or if he makes the program people happy, the deficit gets worse. He is trapped.